Hey everybody, you are listening to the Simple Electronics podcast. I'm your host, Simple Electronics, and today I have a very special guest. I'm going to try my very best not to butcher his last name, Brian Lough. Did I get that right?
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. That is something that I is often pronounced wrong, but I really don't care. I don't expect anybody to know how to pronounce it, so I'll accept anything. Lough, low, whatever. It's fine. But Lough is how I would pronounce it. Yeah.
Excellent. I can't believe I got it right on the first try.
Good job.
I guess my podcasting chops are really starting to build up now.
Maybe you have a bit of Irish in you.
Well,
yeah.
Being a Canadian, we definitely come from basically Europe, and there's a lot of Irish blood in Canada. I'll have to say that.
Yeah, there's a place, I think it's in Newfoundland, where people have like Cork accents. Cork would be like a region in Ireland that would have a distinctive accent, and they have the same accent, basically. Or yeah, there was definitely a video going around about it. I must send it after the podcast, but yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, Newfoundland is known for their accent here. And I do hear a lot of similarities in your accent to the way they speak, but I'm guessing that region you're talking about, was it Cork?
Cork, yeah. So it'd be like the second biggest city in Ireland. It'd be down south of the country. But you know the way like some people have different, like, as in, to me, somebody from like one part of Ireland sounds completely different to what someone from my part of Ireland sounds like. But maybe to someone from Canada, we all just sound Irish, you know? Like, I don't know if it's if the regions of Ireland have that distinctive of an accent outside of Ireland, if that makes sense. But
Probably not. Probably not so much, but I completely understand what you're getting at. And when you spend more time within a culture, you start realizing there's differences in the regional dialects of a culture. Like, like there's no such thing as, for example, an American accent, because someone from the Northeast will sound a lot different than someone from the Southeast, than the Southwest and Central. So I guess same, just we're not bombarded with Irish accents on the media here compared to the American accents we get to hear all the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And a lot of the Irish actors and actresses and stuff would have a fairly like neutral accent. They wouldn't even have a strong Irish accent anymore. Like, I guess just from whatever roles they need to be in or whatever, they probably can't be talking too much like a leprechaun or whatever.
I was not going to go to the stereotypes. I'm glad you went there, because I am not allowed. That's not cool.
Yeah. There's a new film coming out, or movie, I guess. Film is kind of the Irish word for it, nearly. It's not the Irish word, it's just the word we use in Ireland. But that guy that was in 50 Shades of Grey, Durham, or I can't remember his name, but basically it's set in Ireland, and they all have really terrible Irish accents, and like it's like nails on a chalkboard to us, but maybe it sounds right to everybody else. I don't know.
Yikes.
I can't remember what it's called. Far Away or something. Far and Away or something like that. There was a trailer released for it during the summer. It's really bad though. We don't sound like that.
I'll link it in the show notes so people can see the difference between the way you speak and the way, they failed in the movie.
Yep.
That's pretty good. We got derailed really early in the podcast. This is awesome.
We'll get it out of the way. The rest of it will be solid gold.
Well, look, my goal here on the podcast is to talk with interesting people, and I guarantee the listeners that Brian is an interesting person. But if you don't know Brian, I would like you to describe yourself to the audience for us, please.
Sure. Yeah. So As you already know, I'm from Ireland, and probably the main reason I'm here is because I have a YouTube channel where I mainly do projects with ESP8266s and ESP32s, which are Arduino boards that have Wi Fi built into them. And I like building DIY IoT projects. So basically connecting to the internet, fetching some data, and then displaying it on a screen. So one thing that I was kind of probably my most notable piece of work would be I wrote a library for the YouTube subscriber API. So people were able to pretty easily build subscriber counters using one of those boards I mentioned. And yeah, a lot of big YouTubers actually made subscriber counters with them, and yeah, it was pretty interesting. So that'd probably be my biggest claim to fame. And then the other thing that I didn't intend to uh, make a thing, but did become a thing, was I sell a good bit of stuff on Tindy. Um, so for those who don't know, Tindy is kind of like a platform for selling electronics that you design. So it would be kind of like Etsy, if you're familiar with that, but for electronics. And I've been selling on Tindy for a couple of years, and yeah, it's been pretty busy actually. I had never intended to go down that route, but yeah, things just happened out that way, and then it started to grow a bit and continued on growing for a while. So yeah, they would be my two claims to fame.
Yeah,
Sort of.
I hear pretty much every time that I have a guest on, I have a little bit of a pre-chat and often a little bit of a post-chat, and typically your name comes up in the post-chat. They're like, you know who you really need to talk to? Brian. And I've been kind of semi-reluctant to reach out because the way I was doing podcasts before is I was doing sort of like 8 to maybe even 20 hours of research on each of my guests, and I just haven't had the time to do research on you. I have been subscribed to your channel for, I don't know, for quite a while now, but I haven't got a chance to deep dive into your videos. And so I'm glad you're here today. And actually, through a fortunate set of events, I think it was a mutual viewer of yours, mine, and Sion, the Unexpected Maker, saw me in a live stream of Sion's, and he said, "Have you asked Brian yet?" And I said, "No, not yet." And I said, "But if you have an in with people, just send them my way." And then you came on, and then he immediately messaged you, and he's like, "Hey, you should be on the podcast." So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah. I couldn't even remember kind of how it ended up. Yeah, no, somebody said you should be on it, and or no, I think even where I saw it again was I commented on Sion's podcast, and you were like, "When are you going to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, whenever you want." So yeah,
Oh yeah, that too.
it's a small world, or at least there's a lot of kind of overlap between the channels. Like when you go to like different people's live streams and stuff, and you kind of see a lot of the same faces same names and things pop up, and yeah, it's a great community, I think. Yeah, very helpful.
It's funny because Sion swears by the community being awesome, but in his live streams, because I know you attend too, it almost seems like the chat is trying to push Sion off the edge.
I think he's at a size with his live streams where, like, if he has a couple of hundred people on his live streams, which he often does, like, it only takes one person to be acting mischievous for it to be, to feel like the chat is trying to derail him. Like, I used to live stream. I don't really anymore for a few reasons. But like, generally, the people in chat are super friendly and super like engaged with trying to achieve whatever goal you're trying to achieve in the stream. It's amazing how one person, and even if their intentions are like good, can like really throw you off. They're making a suggestion that doesn't make sense or something, and you've already explained it to why it doesn't make sense, but they keep kind of going, no, that's what you need to do. And it's like, no, I can't do that for this reason. And like even that doesn't bother me too much anyways, like the people who have good intentions. But then like sometimes just people come on and they're not so friendly, but that is a rarity
It is
for
pretty
sure.
rare. It is pretty rare. I've never had to ban anybody out of my live streams, and I haven't seen Sion do it. I haven't seen Big Clive do it. Like it seems to be overall a positive community, which is great. I just find it hilarious how Sion gets trolled. Can you go into a little bit why you don't like, or why you're not live streaming? You didn't say you didn't like it. You just said you haven't been.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I was live streaming um basically every week a couple of years ago, and I I was live streaming, and I was live streaming on YouTube first, and then I started to stream to YouTube and Twitch at the same time, um, just because like I didn't think there was too many people doing electronics on Twitch at the time, so I thought it'd be interesting to maybe expand the audience or whatever. And pretty shortly after that, Twitch, the way Twitch works in terms of being able to monetize is you become a Twitch affiliate, and then you're able to monetize your streams. So basically, subscribers on Twitch are like paid sponsors almost. So like they pay $5 a month or whatever it is, and you get some money out of that. And but part of the becoming an affiliate is that you need to stream solely on Twitch. And so at the time, I had just had a video be demonetized for a couple of weeks that shouldn't have been demonetized. It was a video called the Zelda chest with music, and it was about a treasure chest from the Zelda games. When they open, they make a kind of distinctive sort of jingle, and I presume a female name plus chest was flagged as being inappropriate, even though there was like the only human anatomy on show was my hands, like as in it was unfortunate. And I was just like, do you know what, I'm going to diversify, and I'm just going to do this Twitch thing and see how it works out. And I was doing the Twitch thing, and it was going okay, but part of the requirement for being an affiliate is you basically needed to stream twice a week. And so I was streaming on Monday nights and Saturday mornings, and basically it was taking away time from making videos, which was my main like goal for what I wanted to do. And what was happening was I was starting tons of projects uh, and not finishing anything. So it was getting bad anyways. But then we had another child on the way, so I just said, okay, we're gonna finish this up because I won't have time to keep up this 2 streams a week thing anyways. So that's why I stopped. And then I started again in 2020 for a little while just on YouTube, and it was kind of the same thing around. I was starting a lot more projects than I was able to finish, and my channel was kind of getting filled up with streams and not videos. So when people came to my channel and go, oh, let's see what else he has, and they go look at my recent uploads, and there's 4 live streams for every video, they're like, oh, this is a live streaming channel. And I never wanted to be a live streaming channel. Like, I enjoy live streaming, but I just I'm more focused, or I wanted to be more focused on making videos. So they're the main reasons. I do miss it from time to time. Like there you get some really good input sometimes on projects, especially kind of design level stuff. It can be both frustrating and uh, really inspiring, because if you're doing design stuff and you've got like 50 people telling you what to do, that's like I wouldn't have had the same numbers as Sion would on his streams, but like there is that saying, designed by committee or whatever, is an accurate, or I don't know, a saying that something is bad if it's designed by committee. But like there's some things, like there was a guy, I was designing a product once, it was my Christmas tree PCB, and I was like, okay, where am I going to put the battery holder on this? And I was trying to figure out, and I was looking through like one of the online like parts stores to see what battery holder I was going to use. And somebody on the stream goes, "Hey, have you thought about using like a right-angled battery holder? And you could put it down the bottom and you'd be able to stand the tree up then." I was like, this is the most amazing idea I've ever heard. Like, this was fantastic. And it's like, I incorporated that into the design, and it's like one of the key features of that product was something that like I hadn't thought of whatsoever, and it just came from a suggestion on a live stream. So yeah, it's an interesting way to work, and yeah, you can get some really good feedback. There's a lot of knowledgeable people out there.
Yeah, I think the electronics community is special in that aspect, because if I look at like Sion is, I think, the most prolific live streamer in the electronics community next to Big Clive and the EV blog. And I look at all three of those streams, and something like half or maybe a third of the names that you see scrolling in the chat, they have YouTube channels. It's like so many creators congregate amongst other creators. It's really impressive, the amount of community that is built on YouTube. It's incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the same for every kind of niche genre or whatever, but yeah, definitely. Like, is in like a lot of people, even if they don't have channels, even aspire to have channels and stuff. Like, but yeah, there's a ton of knowledgeable people out there. So yeah, it is pretty nice.
It's a little intimidating as well for me, as I wouldn't call myself an expert in anything electronics. I basically built my channel in order to force myself to learn electronics, and it is a little bit intimidating to see, to post a video and to get someone who's been basically working on whatever the heck I was doing in my video for the last 10, 15 years, comment on it, and it's like thanks for commenting, but like, why aren't you doing this? Like, why aren't you making these videos? You know what I mean? Like, it is intimidating to be surrounded with so much talent.
Yeah, like I completely understand where you're coming from. Like, there's tons of stuff that I am not an expert in. There's there's very few things where I would go, okay, yeah, I know a lot about this, and there's nothing I can't learn about this. There's basically nothing, uh, and I have the same kind of opinion on certain aspects of what I do, like like PCB design and stuff. Like, I'm completely self-taught on that. Like, if you compare me to someone like Sion, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. But I guess it's like, okay, like you say that, the person commenting has all this experience and they might know, more about the subject or whatever. But like, the majority of people probably watching it know less than you do, and maybe it's easier for you to explain the difference of, to bridge that gap of knowledge than somebody who doesn't know what it's like anymore to have learnt that piece of, like, is in, you can bring an angle to it that, this expert can't. Like, is in, they don't remember how they learned that. It was just something that's there in their head, and they can't articulate a good way of teaching that anymore. um Yeah, it's one thing, and I know it's one of your teams, but like it's one thing I see a lot with software, where people say that they don't want to upload their software because they're self-taught, and it's not good, or it's messy. And one thing you see a lot, like I use Reddit a little bit, like the Arduino subreddit, where somebody would build something and people would go, oh cool, would you mind sharing the code? And the person would be like, oh, I'll share it after I tidy it up. And I think I've just gotten like thick-skinned enough now, or experienced enough to know that, like, you know, that type of a project, the code is never really tidied up. It's always a mess most of the time. Like, as in, like, I basically upload everything I do to GitHub, regardless of what state it's in, almost. And it's just kind of like, look, there's going to be people who, are there's going to be people who would know how to do this better than me, but there's going to be people who don't know how to do it at all. And maybe what I give them here can get them, a little bit further along in their knowledge. And like, I'm a big kind of advocate of, putting your stuff out there. And if somebody like comments negatively on your code or what you're doing electronics wise, like, once you're not giving like bad information, like dangerous information, like, oh, if your fuse goes, just wrap it in tinfoil, or as in put a nail in it, as in something that is literally dangerous, then like, if somebody doesn't give constructive advice on where you could have done that thing better, they're just being a jerk. Like, as in, that's their problem, not yours. So yeah, definitely a big advocate of trying to encourage people to share what they do more, and just to be more comfortable about like releasing things. Like, there's a saying in software development that if you're not embarrassed by your first release, you've waited too long to release it. That you should be putting things out there, seeing how they get on, and if you need to fix things up, you'll fix things up. And another thing that kind of encourages as well is this sort of toolbox fallacy of basically, like, it's hard to put stuff out there. Like, I say, I upload everything, but I've like over 100 repos on GitHub now. It's easy for me to upload stuff now because I just have experience of it. That, like, I've just gone through the gauntlet so many times. But the first couple of times I was uploading things, I would have been a lot more sort of cautious about it. But that toolbox fallacy I was kind of referring to, it's this like saying of like, oh, I can't do X until I have Y. And like, putting a video out there or releasing some software or doing something is like hard. You're exposing yourself. You've put this creative thing out there, and now it's open for comment and review and criticisms or whatever. And that kind of, oh, I can't release that piece of code until I fixed it up or whatever, is just a way of kind of prolonging that. Like, it's just a way of kind of delaying you doing that hard thing of putting something you've created out to the world. And it's safer to refactor code rather than just releasing it. And look, I'm guilty of that too. There's tons of projects that I have that are in like a working state, and I haven't made a video about them. It's kind of the same thing. So I'm not perfect in that regard at all, but I do definitely like to try encourage people to be more sharing. That, like, there's a line from a really terrible film called Without a Paddle, where there's these two guys out camping and they come up across a bear, and one of them starts like taking off his shoes or something, and the other guy is like, you're not seriously going to outrun a bear, are you? And he's like, I don't have to outrun the bear. I only have to outrun you. So that's kind of, I see that as a, like, you don't have to know everything. The bear is the guy who knows absolutely everything. You just need to know more than the person who's learning from it, and maybe they'll get something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely get that. And that's my 2021 resolution. I've got two. One is finish more projects because you were saying you have issues. You were having issues with starting a lot of projects but finishing none. That's kind of my YouTube career summed up. I don't have anything finished. So 2021 is about finishing stuff and releasing more stuff. So I have a lot of 3D CAD. I probably spent over 60 hours playing in CAD just for this one project that's upcoming that nobody knows about, but I can tell you off air if you'd like to know.
Ooh, a secret.
Yeah, it's a secret. My patrons know about it, but I'm not ready to release it to the general public because typically when you mention something to the public, that makes the project that puts pressure on the project, and the last thing I need is pressure. But I have
Yep.
about 60 hours or so of CAD work, and all of that CAD work, even in the flaws that I've seen, for the stuff that I've built in hour 1 through 10, everything's going to be released because I have to teach myself, I have to learn that perfection is the enemy of getting it done, and
Yep.
it's okay to have a work in progress. Like, I can put it together, I can test run it, I can make videos about it, and then I can go back and revise the design and then re-release updated files. Like, it's not a problem. It's okay. So I just need to let it go and put more stuff out there. And that'll go for code as well, because I have my viewers have basically been poking at me to learn micro or MicroPython or CircuitPython, because they say C is terrible, and especially someone like me that has trouble coding, they say just do Python. Python is way easier. So 2021, I will be writing a lot more code. A lot of it will be in Python, and that will also get released. So those are my two things: getting stuff done, releasing more stuff. That's it basically.
Yeah, I think they're great resolutions. I'm a software developer as my day job, and I I haven't tried Circuit Python or MicroPython either. I just I'm not even particularly good at C or anything. Like it was just the thing that I did first when I started working on Arduino projects, and I'm just kind of nearly pot committed with it now. I this is another toolbox fallacy, but I am pretty pressed for time with stuff. Like I do have two kids, and we moved house recently and things, so I don't have a ton of time, and I kind of like, even though working in Python might actually suit me a little bit better, um, I know uh I know kind of Arduino now, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. I know what I need to do in this. Um, the other thing I mentioned, because I do a lot of DIY IoT projects. Uh, Python wasn't initially uh well supported on the boards that are well suited for that. Um, so like that was kind of a barrier for stopping me now, but that's starting to change now with some of the newer ones. So but you were saying you've resolutions. I don't like to make resolutions because I'm terrible at keeping them, and I feel like you were talking about pressure or whatever. I'm the worst for that. That, like, if I say I'm going to do something and then I'm not doing it, it really grates on me. So I do the next best thing and don't commit to anything, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. But I'm not sure. I guess you must be aware of the MakerCast, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was on one of the first. I was on the first couple of episodes of that. I think I'm tied with David Watts for the person who's hosted it the most, even.
There we go. So the MakerCast, for those of you listening, and this is my outsider understanding. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. But for those of you listening, the MakerCast is basically like a podcast that changes hosts. It goes to different people's YouTube channels, and it's a place to go to speak about or to talk to or to talk about the projects that you've done, like what you've been working on, what you've finished, etc. And
Yep.
Recently, I have the opportunity to, I guess, volunteer to be on the MakerCast, but I don't feel like I belong on the MakerCast because I don't finish anything. I don't have any projects that are done, nothing that I'm personally proud of. And if I'm not proud of it, I'm not going to want to talk about it. So that's why I decided, this is one of the reasons, sorry, but that I've decided that I need to finish more stuff so I can be prouder of my work, so I can be, more apt to talk about what I've done and how I got there and whatever. So the MakerCast is one of the driving factors. I would love to be featured or to be on the MakerCast and feel like I belong. And I know that a lot of people will probably tell me that it's fine, like you could just go on and talk about what's in progress, but I have to feel it personally, right? So that's one of the motivators.
Yeah. Like I totally get that in terms of like, but like I'd say nearly everybody who goes on that has similar like feelings of it's imposter syndrome, right? That like you feel like you don't belong. And when, for me or whatever, like going on a MakerCast with Bitlooney, feels like the original one or whatever, felt crazy to me. Like, why am I on the same show as Bitlooney? But we're all just people trying to make stuff and have some fun. Like, and I think it's important to show like people, different abilities and different levels. Like, as in, most people aren't experts on stuff. So seeing kind of like, say, people come on the MakerCast and they talk about things, and sometimes I'm in awe of what they've done, and but I can barely keep up with what they've done. Like, I don't know what they're doing exactly. Like, I know it's an amazing achievement, but I don't know what's going on. It's just too technical for me. They're working on an area I've never been involved in before, and so like I'm also a big sort of advocate of make like I don't think you need to finish stuff to be considered a maker or anything like that. I think the process of building things is its own journey, and like if there's things you just haven't, like I think you mentioned in the last podcast with Clarissa that you don't have these trinkets to show or whatever. I think you call them chotskis or chot.
Yeah, something like that. Tchotchkes.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have that word here, but yeah, I've come across it enough times that I understand the context of it at least. Like, I don't have a lot of stuff that I use either. Like, I've built some stuff, but like the amount of things that I actually use that I've built is very, very few. Like, yeah, like I think, yeah, just showing the journey is as important as anything. But I do think there is a nice feeling to closure of projects. So I think that is a good objective for you if that's what you want to do, is close some things out and yeah, put them to bed basically.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan, and then build on it, right? Continue on from there.
Yeah, for sure.
So really, when you see the project, you'll be privy to something that only about 20 other people know. You'll see what I mean. Build on. It's a project that'll keep giving, but at first I have to finish it, and it's a personal goal. It needs to be done. And if anyone listening is really interested, they can go onto my Patreon and throw $1 into the pot, and then you'll see. But yeah, that's basically it.
My interest is peaked, anyways.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak about something that happened very recently with you. It seems as though Destin from Smarter Every Day has reached through the abyss of Twitter and had a request for somebody, but it seems to have been tailored exactly for you. Do you want to talk about what happened?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Smarter Every Day is a huge YouTube channel. He's like 10 million subscribers or something. He's kind of like, I don't know, he's like part of the furniture nearly on YouTube. He's been around a good while. He makes kind of sciencey videos. Like I think one of his most famous ones is he learns to ride a bike that works backwards, that when you turn right it turns left, and like, you know, how that messes with your head basically. But yeah, so somebody tagged me in a tweet that he did where he said, "Hey, I'm looking to have an LED sign where somebody can control it via a web interface from somewhere else, basically, like not in the same state even, and for a live stream." And I was looking at this thing and I was going like, this seems right up my alley. So I do a lot of work with these matrix displays. They're called Hub 75 panels, and what they're normally used for is like at football stadiums or something. They make up like a much bigger display, and they all have wires to connect them together. Um, but you can buy like individual panels of them, and they're maybe like 10 centimeters by 20 centimeters long and 64 by 32 pixels. And you can control them with ESP32, which was that Wi-Fi Arduino I was talking about earlier. So I basically said, well, look, I could knock this together in no time at all. So I did, and I made a video about it, of like how easy this thing is to do, because it's only easy because I know how, I guess, like is in, and now it's easy for the next person because the video is there, but like is in I had already done basically all the building blocks of this project before. I just never had stuck them together. So I have a couple of these matrices put together, so it's, you know, maybe like 40 centimeters wide by 10 centimeters tall. I have scrolling text across it, and then I'm using Telegram Messenger, which is an instant messaging client like WhatsApp, and that has a feature where you can basically create a bot, which is, it's like another user that you can talk to or interact with, but instead of going to another user's phone, it goes to like the software you've written. So I wrote a library for Arduino for these Telegram bots years ago, actually. That was one of the first things I did when moving to Arduino stuff. But yeah, so you can set up these bots. It takes no time at all. And yeah, so basically somebody with Telegram could open a chat with this bot, send it a message, and that message would appear on the scrolling text screen. And yeah, so I made the video about it, and people seem to like it and seem to catch his attention too. So I've actually been talking to him on DMs about potentially sending it to him too. So that's weird. Well, more interesting than weird. It's odd to be speaking to someone who is like internet famous. You know, as in, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm sure he's just a normal guy, or that's how he'd feel, or whatever. But like, it's weird to me to be talking to someone, yeah, that you would normally only see on a YouTube video. Like, I had the same thing when I met Bitlooney for the first time. I was like, you're someone who I've watched on videos for years. You know, like you were one of the people who inspired me to make videos, and now I'm talking to just like it's nothing, you know. And you know, he's just a normal guy. Like, isn't there's nothing like, he's obviously a talented YouTuber and very good at like development and stuff, but you know, it's just like any of the rest of us, you know, just a fun-loving guy who likes to hang out or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It is strange, but Yeah, so I'm looking at. I was giving out about tidying, people complaining about tidying stuff up, but there is some things I do need to fix before I could send it to somebody else. Like, basically, like, it works on my Wi-Fi network with the code, but it would need to work on his Wi-Fi network. So I need to provide a solution for him to put in his Wi-Fi details and things like that. So, yeah, that's one of my jobs for the weekend, is to tidy that up and get that packaged up for him. So yeah, which would be interesting. So he's potentially will have it on his charity live stream, which is odd,
It,
sort of.
yeah, and you know what? I totally get the perspective that you're talking about. How you've watched people in YouTube videos, and then you finally get to talk to them, and they're normal people, but to you they're sort of a celebrity. I'll tell you, I have that feeling every single time a podcast guest decides that, like, agrees to appear on the podcast. Like, I know, if you look at raw stats, some of the channels that I have on don't seem very quote unquote famous or whatever, but the way it feels on this end is it's literally a stranger who has basically, they owe me nothing. Like, they don't know me, they don't owe me anything. They come on here and they have a conversation, they donate an hour or two of their time to this process, and they don't know, like, I could be a total nut job. Like, they have no idea. And it's incredible to me that people actually, they want to come on and they want to talk about, the stuff that they're passionate about. I'm basically taken aback every time someone agrees to come onto the podcast. So I have that feeling right now, Brian, just so you know.
I appreciate it, but yeah, I definitely don't feel like I'm anything special or anything. So I don't know if that helps with the situation, but
Not at all. Especially because all the guests say that. They're all like, "Oh yeah, I'm just someone normal." Like, I joined Big Clive's Patreon, so basically I'm a supporter of his, and I talked to him a few times about a few different things over DMs, and I'm like, man, Big Clive is making time to chat with me. Like, this is such a weird feeling. Like, especially Big Clive specifically, because Big Clive and Julian Eilert are the first YouTubers I subscribed to back in, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Quite a while ago, anyways. So it's weird because Julian comes on to Sion's live streams, and sometimes sometimes Julian like takes something I said and answers, like, adds a comment to it. I'm like, this is not how this works. I'm supposed to comment on your stuff, not the other way around. Like, it's just so bizarre.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's strange, but like, yeah, I guess, in the general scheme of things, like, people in electronics niche, they might be big in that niche, but like in the general scheme of celebrity, they'd be tiny, like even the biggest ones. So yeah, I'm sure they don't feel too, like, I don't know, special either. But yeah, no, like, I don't think I've ever come across someone who, like, had airs and graces about them with their level of, stardom or whatever. Like, it is some things that are interesting to me is it doesn't happen often, like, at all, really. But like, I've gone to a couple of, like, meetup type things, and somebody would come up and say, "Oh, hey, like, I watch your videos. I really like them," and I literally just don't know what to say. Nearly, like, I just say thanks, and what else can I say? As in, it's yeah, it's super weird. Like, I 100% appreciate. Like, I'm not saying people don't do that. If ever the opportunity happens, if you want to say hello to me, I'm absolutely delighted to talk to you. But it's unusual. Like, I don't see myself as being any size of a YouTuber or anything. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's cool. I won't say I like it in terms of like I wasn't looking for any sort of fame or anything, but yeah, I really enjoy talking to people about this type of stuff. So I'm absolutely happy to donate the time for this. Or if you ever see me at an event or anything, I'm absolutely delighted to talk to people about stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a nerd at heart. So things that I'm passionate about, I can talk all day about. Like if we like I'm a automotive mechanic by trade. You want to talk cars, I can talk cars literally all day. You can stop me on the street. We can talk cars all friggin' day. So
Yeah.
I think that's common when someone has a passion. If you poke their passion, they will just love to share what they know about it or what they like about it. So I think that's one of the things that makes our little electronics community strong, is that I think we'd all love to talk shop all day, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip for people making small talk as well. That if you can try move people onto their like what they're passionate about, it's a much easier conversation than saying like, okay, you're an automotive mechanic and you know love talking about cars. Most people like don't particularly enjoy talking about their work. So like if the question isn't like where do you work, but it's like, oh, what do you do for fun? You know, people can talk a lot more freely about that question, you know, and makes for a much more natural conversation. Small talk does not come naturally to me whatsoever. So it is something that when the opportunity arises, I do need to work on it a little bit. But
Yeah, I guess that's valid. Um, I guess I'm not that great at small talk either, but I am getting better at it. I mean, being a professional sort of teacher, I guess, like standing in front of the class and having to be the one to direct everything, and then the podcast and stuff like that. I guess I'm getting better at it, but yeah, it's not my forte either. Thankfully, I have a lot of interesting people that come onto the podcast. I haven't had a single dud, so it's a lot easier to keep the conversation going when the person at the other end is some intelligent being, someone really smart that knows something about something, and we can talk about that. So I mean, see, it's really easy with you.
I've noticed myself rambling a couple of times. So if you need to rein me in at any stage, please do.
Not a chance. Podcast is the long form. I mean, this is one of the great parts about the podcast, is that on YouTube, you kind of have to be succinct. You kind of have to sort of abbreviate your content a little bit, or else people will just fall asleep. But if someone clicks on this podcast and expects everything to be in little 30-second tidbits, that's on them. That's their problem. This is the long form
Yeah.
place.
Yep. This is where you'll be, yeah, getting your long-winded explanations of things. Yeah, no, I agree with the YouTube stuff. Like, there's so many times where you're like, oh, well, better leave that on the editing floor because like there's so little content in that 30 seconds that it's just not worth having.
What actually got you interested in making a YouTube channel from the get-go?
Mm. There is one screenshot that I sent to Bitlooney at one stage that is uh, historically relevant for this question, where so I mentioned about my Telegram library that I used for that Smarter Everyday thing, and I had written that before I had started doing YouTube stuff, and Bitlooney had a video of him controlling lights in his house using an ESP8266, which is one of those Wi-Fi Arduinos, and he was doing it through a web interface. So he was opening a page on his phone to a website that was hosted on the ESP, and I like commented on that video, say like is in as part of the video he showed his phone and he had Telegram Messenger as well, and I was like, hey, I wrote a Telegram library that you could use to do the control part of this if you wanted to. and he replied saying like, "Oh, that sounds cool. Like, do you have any videos about it?" And I was like, "I don't, but maybe." So that was actually a big turning point in my decision to make YouTube videos. Was Bitlooney encouraged me to, and yeah, uh, one of one of the big enablers for me to make YouTube videos, I feel as well, was Andreas Spiess or Spice. I think it's Spiess. Um, the guy with the Swiss accent. He like I knew I couldn't deliver like entertaining videos, like as in I know from a previous podcast that you were like you're a big fan of William Osman, and like he has a cadence to his videos and an entertainment factor. Like he could be talking about cleaning his sink and he'd make it interesting or funny. That's not going to be me. Like I don't have that showbiz style. Like I'm much more on the nose or whatever, much more dull. And Andreas was making these videos that were just factual. Like there were, there was the video editing was really simple. He wasn't on screen at all, basically. It was almost like him narrating PowerPoint slides. And I really, they were the kind of video that I liked because like it was just this, like I like entertaining videos too, but from a learning perspective, I like these kind of low frills, here is the information you need presented in a nice way. And yeah, I was working a lot with the ESP8266, and I didn't think there was a huge amount of resources, like channels kind of talking about some of the stuff that I was doing with it. So I said I'd start making videos on it. And yeah, that was that. That was I think first video was released in January 2017, maybe.
Okay.
It's a few years ago, anyways. Yeah.
Huh. Well, if Bitlooney asked me to do a video on a subject, I'd probably just do it also. So I completely get what you mean there, because it's like, well, I mean, if you want me to make a video, sure, let's go.
Yeah, but now that I know Bitlooney, I know that he's just terribly lazy and he didn't want to like look into anything. He just wanted this easily consumable piece of content that he could learn what he needed to learn from it. Yeah. But at the time I was like, oh man, he's so interested in this topic, he wants to see a video about it. He was just too lazy to look at stuff himself.
Yeah, tomato,
Yep.
So definitely for the listeners and not for me, because I already 100% know, cough, cough. But could you explain a little bit what you mean by you designed a library? What's a library? How does it work? And how do people use it?
Sure. Yeah. So, a library for Arduino is kind of like a section of code. So, like, if you write a piece of code for something, say it's even just like blinking an LED, what you can do is create a library for this, and that basically like it packages up a piece of code, and you can make it available to download through like the Arduino IDE. So like you could search for Brian's blinking library, and you like install it to your Arduino IDE, and then you can use that piece of code in your software by just calling kind of like a single line, So like that Telegram library is, I don't know, it could be 1,000 lines of code long, but if you want to send a message with Telegram using it, you only have to do like 2 lines of code. So it's basically a way of like sharing back like specific things. So like a lot of the times, like I'm not familiar with exactly what, like I know you say you're not into the programming side of things at all, but like if you've ever used a sensor or a display that basically, needed like some code to connect to it, a lot of the times there's libraries for connecting to that specific sensor or that specific display. So somebody has done the work up front and they've just made it easier for you to get it back. And like that's something I like a lot. Like as in I was talking earlier about the YouTube subscriber count stuff. Like I had actually to make that library. I was watching Andreas Spies, and he made a video where he built a subscriber counter, but he was using a Raspberry Pi to fetch the data from YouTube, and then he was sending the data from the Raspberry Pi to the ESP. And I was like, "Oh, I don't think you need to do this. I think you can go straight from the ESP to YouTube." And like one of my motivations for doing that was I was like, okay, there's going to be people who think that making a subscriber counter might be interesting, but they won't have kind of the background I have with working with APIs, which is an API is basically it is a specific URL usually that like exposes certain information. So like the YouTube API, you could do things like get back the stats of a video from it. So instead of it coming back on a fancy web page, it comes back just like views equals this, thumbs up equals this, and it's much more consumable from a code point of view than a full web page. And I just really liked the idea of like exposing that ability to basically anybody who wanted to use it, that you didn't need to know anything about how it was getting this data. Like if you just followed the instructions of, okay, just put in this, connect to your Wi-Fi and call this line of code, and, suddenly you're getting your subscriber count back. So it's like suddenly almost as easy to get your YouTube subscriber count as blinking LED. Like that was really appealing to me. I liked that a lot. I liked kind of being able to share that back to people. So yeah, I hope I've explained what a library is in that ramble, but
I think
I'm wondering
so.
if I had.
Let me see if I can repeat it back to you what I understood from it, and then you can go from there. So
Yep.
a library is just a chunk of code that gets something accomplished, which gets packaged up and put somewhere, and someone can install that chunk of code and then call specific parts of it with very small pieces of code, and therefore make small pieces of code do a lot of work in consequence. How's that?
Yep. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so you could have like an Arduino sketch that's 4 lines long that could be going to the internet and connecting to Telegram or whatever, and doing whatever work it's doing under the hood. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I'm like, so I was talking about like me making things available. Like there's aspects of this type of work that I don't know a lot about, like as in controlling displays and things like that. Like I wouldn't be able to write a library to like control a display, but somebody else has put in the work to allow me to do that, where I don't need to know how to do the minute nitty gritty of how do I control this display. Somebody else has made that available for me, and like, yeah, I really like that about the maker community, and programming in general is pretty good for that, where people are just like happy to share stuff. I like that a lot. I think it's a nice thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Most people, most creators on YouTube, they have a Patreon account where people can go and donate a buck or $5 or $20 a month to support what that creator is doing. Mostly because we know that YouTube doesn't really pay until you get past maybe pass 100,000 subscribers before you can really make some decent money on YouTube. But you don't have a Patreon, as far as I know. You use GitHub sponsors. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. I I was reluctant to set up a Patreon or a GitHub sponsors. They're fairly equivalent at all, because probably imposter syndrome would be one of the main reasons. Like it's fine to supply these videos for people, and they can watch them if they want to watch them, or don't watch them if they don't want to watch them. But I felt the dynamic is completely different when you're getting paid. Somebody's paying you for it. So I was reluctant to set one up at all. But then GitHub sponsors. So for people who don't know, GitHub is a code sharing website, basically. So it's like a huge website in software development, where people can store projects and things like that on it. And they came out with the sponsors concept, and they had this offer that if you signed up for GitHub sponsors, they would match dollar for dollar all your sponsors for the first year. So if somebody threw $5 into the hat, GitHub would throw another $5 on top of that. And I felt like this was a good opportunity to just, do that. So I signed up for it, and yeah, it's it's interesting. I don't know. So I'm not subscribed to your Patreon or anything, but I find it hard to. I have the most understanding GitHub sponsors in the world, and I absolutely appreciate the heck out of all of them. But I find it really hard to deliver value to them, right? And it's something I'm really conscious about a lot, that is in. So I mentioned I'm pretty time poor as things go. Between the YouTube stuff, the Tindy stuff, and obviously my day job and kids and whatever other responsibilities I have. I find myself really short on time, and any kind of Patreon perks or whatever are more time. And basically, if I'm spending time doing the Patreon perks, I'm taking away time probably from making videos and things like that. And I started off kind of with regular sort of, what you'd expect from Patreon style things, where I was trying to do a weekly blog or a weekly update, and then I started doing weekly update videos because they were a bit quicker than the text update, and then I was doing it a little bit less. And then all of a sudden I was finding myself not able to keep up with doing it at all. And I felt so crap about it, because, people were paying me money, and, whenever I talk to them, they're like, we're not paying you to do these blog updates. We're paying you because we like what you do. We like the videos you make, and we want to support you. But I still felt terrible about it. So I had to, at one stage, earlier last year, I wrote to them and was basically I need to simplify this, because I feel so bad about how this is going at the moment. And I completely removed basically tiers from the sponsorships, as in there. So GitHub doesn't let you. GitHub, you kind of have to you can't. I don't know if it's different for Patreon. It probably isn't actually. Like, is in you have to have tiers if you want people to be able to, like, as in you could have a $2 tier, but if you only have a $2 tier, that is the only amount of money that somebody can pay you. Like, as in somebody can't choose to say, oh, okay, I'm gonna give $10 or whatever. So I had like 5 different tiers, and I was giving people like discounts to my Tindy store based on that. And like, it was just a pain in the butt every month to have to do this. And I was like, more than once I sent the wrong discount codes to the wrong people, and it was just a bit of a disaster. So like, I just completely stripped it back at one stage, and I was like, okay, if you want to be a GitHub sponsor, you get like a 10% discount code for my Tindy, and it's good for the year. So I'm not going to send a new one out every month. Just if you're a sponsor for June and you don't sponsor after that, well, you have a code for a year anyways, because, it's just easier for me to do it that way. And yeah, I basically said I'm not going to be doing as many update videos and things like that, because I was just finding it really hard to keep up with it. And I had like these perks written in stone that I wasn't, well, they're not written in stone, but I had these perks laid out that I wasn't delivering, and I just felt so bad about it. And like that type of thing where I don't like committing to something and then not delivering it is also one of the reasons I don't do sponsors on my channel. It's not because I don't like money. Everybody likes money. And I don't have a particular big problem against sponsors either. But I hate the thought of like being committed to work on something and then just not being able to get to it or whatever. Like, even like this week, I have a couple of packages that I need to send out to different people, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And it's like, it's been weighing on my mind. Like, it's my goal this weekend is to just get that sorted, get it off the plate. I just hate having I hate having an obligation that I'm not fulfilling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. In fact, I'm pretty much the same way. When the way I deal with it is when a sponsor contacts me. If I contact a sponsor, that's different. If I go fishing for something, if I go looking for a product or whatever, that's completely different. But if a sponsor contacts me and they want me to take a look at something or whatever, I say send it, but there's no guarantee on a timeline. Like, there's no way I can promise you a timeline, because I'm building courses. Like this summer, I designed a course for my college. So that took, like, I was paid, I think the college paid me 100 hours to do it, but I think I've clocked over 250 because that's just, I want to do a good job. I want to have a good, anyways, it's my course. I'm going to teach it. I'm going to put the effort in. So yeah, I tell them, yeah, you can send it to me, but A, you can't editorialize anything. B, there's no timeline. And C, it's possible you don't ever see it on camera. And so far, the people who have been seeking me out to send me stuff, they've been understanding of that, which is fantastic. Yeah. Like, I even have PCB Way, which they're like, yeah, we want like 1 to 2 videos a month and we'll sponsor you. And I'm like, how about I make videos when I can? And so far, they've been more than understanding. They're just like, yeah, let me know when you're ready. We're here. Don't worry about it. So far that's good. And with the Patreon thing, I feel exactly the way that you do, because I got to a point where I got like way over my head with building the courses for my students, and I got to a point where I hadn't made a video in like 2 or 3 weeks last year. And then even when I was making videos, because for people who don't know, YouTube tells you when your audience is most active on YouTube. So I have times that I like to release videos. And so I wasn't finishing them with enough time for the patrons to have advance viewing. They would get like 12 hours in advance, and that's
Yeah.
not. I mean, to me, that's not really an advanced viewing. Because especially if you're in Europe, if I post at night, or if I post at night, that means Europeans are at work. Then they get home from work, and then it goes live because I'm in Canada. So they didn't really get an advanced viewing. So I said, look, guys, I said, this isn't working. Like, do you guys need more time? Because what I'll do then is I'll delay it a week. I'll delay the video a week so I can still release it at the time and date that I want, but it'll just be a week later. And I said, I've been so busy. So if you guys want a refund, not a problem. I'll just hit the refund button. Just let me know in private. You don't have to say anything, whatever. I'll just refund you. And the answers I got from that post on Patreon were like, I think I had only like maybe 10 or 11 patrons at the time. I'm up past 20 now, which is incredible. But
That's great.
yeah. So the answers I got from maybe 4 or 5 of them that had posted, they said, yeah, we don't care. We're not here to get any perks. We just like what you do. And so it was just such a weight off my shoulders, because they were in the back of my mind all the time, and they still are in the back of my mind all the time. Like they are basically the reason that sometimes videos get done, because I'm thinking like, I don't want to disappoint these guys, even though they want nothing in return. They're just the nicest people. They like supporting. So now, so now in the 2 big projects that I have on the go, what I started doing is I've started doing text updates. So when I have stuff on my mind, I just type in like just a couple lines of what's on my mind, what's going on. And for the other project, the CAD project that I'll tell you about after, that one, as the parts get finished, I take photos of them, and then I'll make a post with all the updated photos, and I'll show them the CAD models and stuff. And it's great because they seem really excited to see the projects go forward, and at the same time they give me feedback. So it's almost like having a really nice comment section. It's great. So
yeah, one thing that is really missing from GitHub as opposed to Patreon is like when you post on Patreon, there's a comment section, right?
Yes.
Like, as in, so people can comment back. That does not exist on GitHub. So when I do a sponsors update, a person who is sponsoring receives an email basically, and I don't know if they can actually even reply to that email, but like I don't really hide my email too much anyway, so people could get in touch with me if they wanted. But so like I've been trying to use Discord a little bit more for that type of interaction. Like, so like there's a sponsors only section in my Discord, but I find I basically have to do the GitHub sponsor stuff on my PC, and that isn't very compatible with me in terms of like I'd often kind of be like, okay, I'm cooking dinner, so I have like 5 minutes here while the rice is, the water's boiling for this rice or whatever, and I might take out my phone and, like I can answer questions in Discord at that stage or whatever. So I actually find something mobile much more convenient. So I do try to like give more sort of smaller project update type stuff in the Discord rather than on the like official GitHub sponsors stuff. Another thing that I've done, and this is kind of beneficial for me more than other people, is sometimes like I make drafts of videos of like, here is a section of a video I'm working on. What do you think? Like, as in, do you think I should make it, is it explained clearly, or, is it too long or whatever? And sometimes I share that sort of stuff, but that's more beneficial to me than I think to the sponsors, really, because, I'm getting early feedback on something without fully releasing it or whatever. But yeah, that's about what you get if you're a GitHub sponsor of me, is some little behind the scenes on the Discord, and some you get the opportunity to review my videos, which is not exactly a positive thing for you, but it's a helpful thing for me, so I appreciate it.
So if anyone wants to make Brian feel bad, they can go join the GitHub sponsors. There will be a link in the show notes and in the description below. You should definitely go there and troll him. I mean, you're kind of paying for the right.
That's what you get. Just to be clear as well, that year of them batching is over too. So don't be doing it just to get that GitHub matching thing. But
so basically, what you're saying is they have to double their contribution then.
That's it. Yeah, that's double up. Yeah, like I guess another reason for not going down that route too is like I'm in an incredibly fortunate position with my day job that I don't need to earn money from YouTube at the moment. It's not like monetizing the channel is not a huge, like I do have ads on my channel. That's more for viewership reasons than monetary reasons. Yeah, I'm just like me and my family are in a position that we don't rely on the income from YouTube, but you know, the additional stuff that we do get does pay for some of the like different projects that I do. Like, as in, I had a project where I was testing a ton of different USB-C power delivery boards, and like because of the GitHub sponsorship, I was able to buy a ton of different chargers. Like I have like 6 or 7 USB-C power delivery chargers, all of different wattages, so I could test like different kind of configurations of them. And like that was a direct result of like GitHub sponsors. But yeah, it was just, it's not a, like, for me, like growing the channel would be a higher priority than like making money from it at the moment. Like ideally, I would like to get to a stage where I can offset some of my day job with YouTube earnings, but I think that's fairly unrealistic, even medium term. Like I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but it's a long way off at the moment, anyways, for sure.
Yeah, I feel the same thing. Like I wish I could. Well, basically, being a teacher is kind of, it's pretty much my dream job. It's pretty much what I wanted to do, what I was born to do. It's what I'm passionate about. But unfortunately, the way it works here is most of us are all contract, and we're all contract to contract type professors. So especially in my trade, the intakes are only 8 weeks. So I get 8-week contracts, and then if the college decides not to do an intake after that, then I don't get another contract. So
yeah,
it pays really well. Like I can't say that I'm doing it for free. Like it pays exceptionally well. But the problem is that often I'm working, 3 months a year or 4 months a year. This year was a bit more fortunate because I designed that program, so I was teaching the program. But if the province decides not to renew the program, like basically doesn't give the funds to the college to do another semester of the program, then I'll be out of work again, right? So
yeah,
it's a little iffy.
Like that's that's definitely not like ideal or whatever. So if anybody's thinking about sponsoring me, what you should do is become a Patreon of Simple Electronics instead.
No. So that's not how this works. Yeah. The host has to butter up the guest, not the other way around.
No. No, it's
Look,
cool.
If you're planning on throwing me $10, then do 5 and then throw 5 to Brian. How about that? Can we just agree that split it?
Sounds good.
Okay. Much better like that. Actually, this brings us quite well around to one of the questions we ask all my guests. It's basically to tease out what you would do if money wasn't an issue. So the question goes like, the government decides to sponsor you to make the company of your dreams. It doesn't have to be a profitable company like the thought is the government would top you up, but it does have to provide a service or a product. What sort of company would you start?
Yeah. So I've heard you ask this question before, and still, I should have been expecting it. I'm pretty sure I would love to teach people who want to be taught. That I absolutely love teaching people who are interested in learning. Like I don't know if I could be uh I don't know if I would be a good like high school teacher, because you'd have a ton of people like me in high school who didn't want to be there half the time. But like when somebody is engaged and you're trying to like, you know, teach them or whatever, I absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. Like a couple of times in my job, like I've taught a couple of like, hours of introductory to like Arduino or whatever. And the people who are there are not there because somebody's making them be there. They're there because they're interested in it, and it's just, yeah, it's great. I love it. I think if like money was no object or whatever, then that's probably what I'd do. And yeah, like I hope at some stage to kind of move the channel, maybe not fully that direction, like as in that mightn't be, everything I do on the channel anymore, but like it is on my incredibly long to-do list that doesn't ever get shorter nearly, to do like kind of this introductory course to like Arduino or whatever, or yeah, something. I guess it doesn't have to be Arduino, but yeah, I think teaching people who want to be taught would be the one.
And I think you stumbled upon what I like the most about my day job, because the way it works here, if you want to be a automotive technician or a mechanic, if you want to be a little bit derogatory about it, is that you have to apprentice. You have to be an apprentice in a shop, and you have to work a year, and then you come to a college like the one I teach at, and the ministry or the government has sort of like an 8-week plan to show you, 8 of the systems, to describe 8 of the systems in theory and in practice, and then you go back to work. You work another year, and then you come back to the college. You do another 8 weeks, which is more advanced. You go back to work for a year, and then you come back to the college for another 8 weeks, which is the most advanced. Then after that, when you're done, you go and you write your test, and if you pass the test, you get your license. Then you're a fully licensed, fully fledged mechanic. And so the students I get, for the vast majority of them, the biggest portion of them, they are there because this is what they want to do. They are hyper focused on getting better at their job and becoming more of an asset. So basically, I'm doing exactly what you're talking about for Arduino, but for automotive.
Yeah, like that sounds great. I don't know if we have the exact same system for mechanics in Ireland. I actually don't know how you qualify as a mechanic in Ireland, but I know for sure that like trades, like an electrician would have basically exactly what you described, in terms of you work with somebody as an apprentice, go to college for I don't know how long, but yeah, different periods of time, throughout your time working for the as an apprentice. So yeah, no, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's awesome because you get to basically. I'm not sure how other professions work, but in my profession, everything is always advancing at a really rapid pace, and so it's a really weird dynamic where I'm a professor because I spent a lot of time in the profession. I picked up a lot of things. I know a lot of things. I've done a lot of research. I've advanced myself I've done like professional development and all sorts of things. But some of the students that come in, they know more than me on certain specific topics because in their workplaces, they deal with those topics all the time. For example, I work at a Honda dealership, so Hondas I know like the back of my hand. But if a student comes in that worked at a Chrysler dealership or a Dodge dealership, and they get to do recalls or whatever on brand new Dodges, they get to know an aspect of the technology super deeply, whereas I would have to pick that knowledge up in a book. So it's this weird but interesting exchange of information where they tell me about things that they're doing in their everyday, and I get to sort of explain the workings behind it, like the history and the mechanics behind what they're experiencing. It's awesome. It's a great exchange of information.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I definitely feel as though that's what I was meant to do for a living. Do you feel sort of the same way about what you do for a living, or is it more of a paycheck type thing?
No, like I do really like my job. I think it's I'm incredibly fortunate with it. So my day job is so I'm a software developer, but on top of that, I work for an arm of the company that like what we do is we build proof of concepts using like emerging technologies. So like VR might be something that we're looking at. So we get to basically like trial out these new types of technologies and see what interesting things we can build with them. And we don't even need to like we don't even need to have like a product at the end of it. Like the product is our learnings of what you could do with this technology. We don't have to like specifically make a product that's going to make money or anything. And like I work with some of like the most creative people as well, and like it's a really really good job in terms of like how interesting the work is, the type of stuff we're doing, like the way we work is interesting, just like we often have just these brainstorming sessions where it's literally like, hey, tell me something that you saw that you think is interesting and how could we incorporate this into a project. And it is a super interesting job. Yeah, so like I do really like it. But sometimes like I always like having my own stuff going on the side too. I don't know why. Like as in like I probably could be perfectly fulfilled with what I'm doing in work and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I've just always liked to have other things going on. Just I don't know. I like the freedom of literally being able to do whatever you want or whatever you feel like doing with the side stuff. And yeah, no, I haven't worked. I've only been working on that team for a couple of years. And like before that, I was just like what you would see as kind of like a regular software developer. But yeah, I do really like the job. I think it's great. I'm very fortunate. But yeah, no, I'm still incredibly passionate about the other stuff. I don't really have a good reason why, but yeah.
Yeah, it's fine not to have or not to know the reasons behind things. It's just really interesting to get your take in it. And I kind of feel like I'm a little miffed because I really do love cars, but it's not something I can come home and do really without an expensive sort of set of gear. Like for example, it's winter here in Canada. It was minus 24 overnight, and that means it was minus 20-ish this morning. I can't necessarily go out and work on my car or tinker with my car unless I have a heated garage. So that's like a big investment to do sort of like what I'm passionate about. And
Mm.
I mean, I don't have heated garage money. I simply, it's just,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen, at least not for the next, foreseeable future. And so
Yeah.
I kind of, I kind of feel jealous. I guess jealous is the wrong word, but it kind of explains it. I kind of feel jealous for people that have passions for things that they can do on their spare time.
Mm.
So like the YouTube channel for me kind of fills that need to advance something of my own, do something without my boss's knowledge or permission or whatever. It's something I can work
Mm.
on in my own time. And really, to get started on a YouTube channel, you don't need very much. You can use your smartphone and no external mic if you really wanted to, and some people have. And so
Yep.
maybe if I had picked up a passion that was different, that I can work on my own time or play with on my own time freely, it would be different. But I think electronics and YouTube is really scratching that itch for me, which is great. Not that I have a
Mm.
lot of spare time, but whatever time I do have, I can, I feel like I can work towards something easier than, in the automotive world, for example.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Like that is something with programming, like as in like before I was doing the Arduino stuff, I was doing other forms of programming like on the side as well. And like to do programming projects, you just need a computer, like which you probably already have anyways, so like it's definitely it's an accessible it's an accessible pastime from that point of view. Um like that the entry requirements are low, like as in, to be really involved in like the car thing, you might want to have maybe like a pit or a lift or whatever to get under the car, and all that stuff costs a lot of money, or you need to have a car to work on, as in with the programming stuff, you can just start programming. Like you won't have to pay for any software. Like I guess when you want to release it, if you're releasing an app or something, you might have to pay something. But yeah, it's very. I really like the freedom that comes with it too. Like in terms of there's just so much different avenues that you could go down with it.
What advice would you give someone who is listening to you talk and gets inspired by your passion? What advice would you give them to get them going, to get them started?
For me, I find the best way to get started with stuff is to try pick a project and do it, rather than like go learn stuff first. And that doesn't work for everybody, but like for me, like I find the idea of like, okay, I have this goal and I'm going to work towards it, and as the barriers come in, I will learn how to overcome this barrier. I just think it makes it more interesting in terms of like, if you have something to work towards, it's easier to be motivated for that problem when things start getting a bit difficult. Like if you want to start programming or something and you're just reading through textbooks, and like if you haven't programmed at all, you probably are going to need to do a little bit of reading up first before you can start, or maybe you're following like a YouTube tutorial or something. But like when things start getting hard and you don't have a reason to do them, and it's only a side thing, like it's a hobby, it's easy to go, do you know what? I think I'm going to play a video game instead of spending my time on this thing. So for me, I think doing projects is the way to go. It doesn't even have to be something you want to finish or whatever, but like is in I like that problem solving thing, and that works for me, and maybe it'll work for other people too. So I think work towards stuff, and as hard as it might be as well, I think reaching out for help in different places is a good way of going about it too. Like people, like we were talking earlier in the podcast about like how helpful people are. People are generally really helpful if you find kind of like a friendly place to ask the question. And if you're putting in the work or whatever, people will be incredibly helpful to you. Like for me, I hate when somebody goes like, I don't know how to do this thing, will you do it for me? Like, as in, if there's a thing of, I don't know how to do this thing and I've tried this and this and neither of them worked, like, it's in, I could see they're making an effort. I'm not just doing their homework for them. Uh, like, as in, I think people are generally like that, where they'll be, really sort of helpful to, somebody who's genuinely trying to learn. But, I think the other thing as well is, so I'm saying go for this project or whatever, but like you really need to start small with stuff. Um, like do things one small bit at a time and build on top of it. So that Smarter Everyday video that I released, I kind of went through my process a little bit of how I do things. So like when you're programming the Arduino, the first thing you do is not try make a scrolling text display that connects to the internet. Even if that's your end goal, the first thing you do is make it blink its LED that's built into it. Because if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to do any of the other stuff, So you build up your like competency like a step at a time. There's this kind of famous saying in like corporate culture of like, how do you eat an elephant, and it's one bite at a time. It's that kind of a thing though. Like you do this step by step. So like in that video I go, okay, I blink this LED first. The next thing I do is get it get it drawing on the display I'm using one of the examples from the display library. The next thing I do is make it display text the way I want it to display, so it's scrolling across. And then the next thing is I add the second screen, because if I can't get it working with one screen, I'm never going to be able to get it working with two. And then when I have it doing that, I move on to like connecting it to Telegram. So it's just step by step building it up. And, if you are trying to build that project and you go to me, hey, it's not working, and I'm like, well, what stage are you at? It's like, oh, well, I've tried to put all this stuff together and it's not working. Like, I don't know how to help you nearly at that stage, because I don't know what part is broken. But if you've, well, I was able to program the board and make it blink, but I wasn't able to get this, display to work. And well, it's like, okay, I know what stage you're at now. I can give you a help with that. So do projects, and take them small bit by bit, and build it up, and yeah, it should get there.
Beautifully said. And would you agree that the hardest step is taking the first step, like just start, just try, just get going?
100%. There was this thing on Twitter there recently. Somebody was like, what's the best advice you can give in 4 words or less? And I had started to type it out, and then I was like, I'm just not going to tweet this now. But just start is definitely my advice. Like, and I would also advise to, like, you touched on it. I don't know exactly how you phrased it about, like, was it, perfection? Like, don't strive for perfection, isn't just like, that I'm full of sayings today, but perfection is the enemy of good, like,
of getting it done.
Good enough.
Of getting it done, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as in, like, say you're comfortable with Raspberry Pis, and like you want to build something that fetches data from the internet, and you could do it with a Raspberry Pi, or you could do it in an ESP32, and the general consensus might be that the ESP32 would be better for that job because it's smaller, it's cheaper, it's less, like doesn't use as much power, it's a little bit less complicated. But if you know how to use a Raspberry Pi already and you want to build this project quickly and you're not looking to like pick up a new skill, you should build it with a Raspberry Pi. You should build it how you can. And if you want to worry about improving it later, do. And if anybody says to you, like, hey, you should have used an ESP32, or, I don't mind when people say that kind of stuff to me, because I do think it's like, maybe it's something I didn't think of, or, it's something, but like, you shouldn't not do something because it's not the perfect solution. If it's like a finished project with the not perfect solution is a million times better than a project that, in theory is perfect, but you've never done. Like, as in, just get started, get it going, and see how you get on, and you can always improve things later.
I completely agree, and that's the outlook for this year for me. That's for sure. The only caveat I would say is if you go onto another maker's channel and he's using an Arduino Mega to flash a LED, tell him about it. That's where I draw the line.
I find it funny. So I'm aware of another maker's channel, but several times in podcasts when you've said like, "Oh, I was talking to another maker," I was like, is that the channel Another Maker, or is he referring to a different maker? Like, as in, I'm a maker, so I was talking to another maker. Yeah, so it's an interesting name. But if anybody's listening, there is a channel called Another Maker, and you should check him out.
Yeah, and we both have unfortunate names for saying out loud. Basically, my YouTube name, Simple Electronics, is not searchable because there's a bigger YouTube channel with a similar name. And Another Maker, when you just say it just like that, it's hard to know who you're talking about. So, yeah, basically, we both have unfortunate YouTube names.
What is the name of the other one? He's Paul something or other from the States. Simple... I can't think of it. It has something.
So there's Simply Electronics and there's Learn Electronics. Paul is Learn Electronics.
Paul is Learn Electronics, yeah. Me and Paul started around the same time, and he's at like 100,000 now, and I'm not quite there yet, but he has put in the work. He
is a content.
Can't begrudge him.
He's a content machine gun. I think he does a video a day. Like, he's insane.
He was for a while. I don't know if he's still doing that, but yeah, he's pumping them out. He is a hard worker for sure.
Oh yeah, he's an excellent YouTube channel as well. And so, so is Simply Electronic, even though he
stole your name.
Yeah, actually I think it's the other way around. Not actually, if the lawyers are listening, he stole my name.
This is true. I'll back you up on that.
No, and whatever. Finding a name for a YouTube channel is terrible. I wanted the anonymity, so I didn't want to go with my first last, yours truly and Julian Eyelet and all sorts of makers use their own name, which is fine. But yeah, I'm not that creative, so I couldn't come up with anything good.
Well, that was one of the reasons I picked my own name too, is because I'm terrible at coming up with names. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. From I can't pronounce that word, so I'm going to say an anonymous point of view, that doesn't bother me that much. But from I think from a brand recognition point of view, I think maybe having a channel name isn't a bad thing at all. Say the two of us are in Unexpected Makers live stream and we're talking, if someone is not familiar with either of us, if you have, Simple Electronics and you have a logo, someone will probably go, "Oh, he's probably a YouTube channel," and might click on you, but nobody's going to assume, "Oh, Brian Lough is probably a YouTube channel, so I'll click on him." So yeah, there could. I don't know whether it was a good idea. I basically went, Andreas Spies is making videos that I like. I'm gonna do what he did. So that's why and I'm useless at coming up with names. So
Yeah, kind of the same with me, because I modeled my channel off the channels I was watching. So that would be Julian Eilert, Big Clive, and AVE. Julian Eilert had his first last name, but if you look at those three channels, you'll see that my style is similar, just, far less talented than any of those guys. Basically.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I know. I'm sure of it.
You just need to get a few catchphrases going so you can be AVE.
Yeah, and that's it's funny because keep your dick in the vice is obviously he's playing with keep your stick on the ice, and that is the catchphrase of a very popular TV show host here in Canada. Basically, a comedian made a show called The Red Green Show. It's basically some dude in all plaid, and he loves duct tape. So if you know the handyman's secret weapon, duct tape, that's him.
Yep.
And he says, as a sign off, is keep your stick on the ice, and that's what AVE plays with. But I'm not sure if most of the viewers understand that it's a play on words from that. It's just really interesting how it took off.
Yeah, I would have no context of Canadian TV, so I wouldn't have. I didn't think it was that clever. I don't know. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I use one of AVE's sayings to all my apprentices coming through the shop, where he says, "Don't stick your pinky where you wouldn't stick your dinky." Because basically cars are dangerous as hell, and students have the tendency to point but like basically touch things. So some of them like they nearly like poke running pulleys and stuff. I'm like, "Hey, don't stick your pinky where you wouldn't stick your dinky."
That is true words. Truer words have never been said.
So Brian, tell the viewers where they can find you. What should they look up for you? How can they contact you? Let them know.
Sure. So the main place would be my YouTube channel, which you can search for by Brian Lough. Lough is Lough.
Yeah, like it's pronounced.
And like it's pronounced, obviously Lough is Lough. What other way would you spell Lough? So there's there. And then I'm almost like embarrassed with this one, but like my Twitter handle is Witness Me Now. And that was like the internet name I picked for myself when I was like 15. And like I was just using that for a lot of different stuff up till, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. Maybe not quite 10. Yeah, probably 10 years ago. And yeah, that's one of... That and my GitHub are both Witness Me Now, and I'm like, I hate having to say it out loud. It's so stupid. But yeah, we can thank 15-year-old Brian for that one. And that's pretty much it. You can reach me on Twitter. If you want to get onto my Discord, there's links to that in my YouTube videos descriptions. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to chat with me and to give the listeners some interesting and important advice. I really appreciate you taking your time and joining us.
No, you're welcome. It was great fun.
And for the rest of you, the listeners, you know what I'm about to say now. Go check out Brian's stuff. As a YouTuber, having subscribers makes a big difference. It's like the gives us sort of the push to create, because when you make a video and nobody watches it, it's a little sucky. So go over to his YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it's awesome for the creator. And I want to thank you guys all for listening in today. I hope to catch you in the next one. See you guys.
Bye.